before we stand for the pledge, I'd like to do a moment of silence for our dear colleague, Carol Oleski, that passed away today. And to thank her for all the service she has done for the many children's lives that she has touched over the years. Please stand for the pledge.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our board secretary this evening is going to be our solicitor as well. Roll call.
Mr. Casey, present. Mrs. Cogbetti,
Present.
Mr. Duffy, present. Ms. Gilmartin, present. Mr. Lesh, here. Mr. McAndrew, present. Mr. Schuster, present. Mrs. Dixon,
Present.
8 present, 1 absent.
Solicitor's report.
At this time, I have nothing to report on, but except that executive sessions were held on Wednesday, September 19th, Monday, September 24th, Wednesday, September 26th, and this evening, October 9th, all in the year of 2018.
Thank you, Attorney Menor. At this time, Dr. Kirian, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. We have a report from student representatives.
We have with us this evening Ms. Duffy from Charles Sumner Elementary.
Good evening.
I'm here this evening to talk about some of the great things that are happening in the Scranton School District. I'll wait till my packet goes along. I put together this packet to highlight some of the wonderful programs that we are offering in Charles Sumner. So this year at Charles Sumner, we are offering 5 programs to encompass the whole child and to best support our school community. Social emotional supports. Children of incarcerated parents after-school program, grant funded through Keystone College. Children who have a parent in jail or prison face unique challenges. The parent's absence and resulting stress at home can impact the child's behavior and academic progress at school. Sumner Elementary School and Keystone College Juvenile Justice Institute will offer a pilot program to provide support and coping skills for students in kindergarten and 1st grade who have an incarcerated parent. This will happen weekly at our school, once a week after school. Mental health counseling service. Many of our schools offer what I'm going to describe, but this package is for parents when they arrive. So we have our school-based Scranton counseling team to assist the child and family, our licensed social worker on staff, our licensed psychologist on staff. We are partnered with EOTC, Employment Opportunity Training Center, and Early Intervention, and they also provide a nice parent presentation in our foyer at our school. Lackawanna County Office of Youth and Family Services, our Student Assistance Program. We are a partner with Marley's Mission. Our school-wide positive behavior model we follow each day, and we have weekly yoga sessions. We have an after-school garden club which provides small peer group therapy sessions, which is provided by our social worker, Fred Resnick. Our academic supports. We have our Transforming Readers, which is grant funded through United Way of Lackawanna County. Locally retired educators provide 2 hours of weekly reading intervention to our kindergarten students. We have Homework Diner, after-school program, also grant funded through SEIL, early literacy intervention for students who have scored intensive on our skills assessments. Homework Diner works with the University of Scranton students to provide tutoring for both parent and child. We have a book buddy program that I started when I was at Willard. I have my own personal children's library in my office, and children select a book after school from my personal library. This is mainly for children whose parents aren't reading to them. These children come to my office in the morning and share breakfast with me and their story. Child Study is our 9-week intervention system that many of you are familiar with. We have Title I services, ELD, our English language development support. Physical developmental support, as I mentioned before, we have yoga provided by Yoga West, so we try and partner with some of our community agencies. Every Tuesday after school we have that 2 o'clock dismissal, so we thought it was best to serve our parents as an after-school program, which helps them and also helps our children. The benefits, obviously, of our yoga program that we have seen is that it reduces stress and anxiety, improves memory and attention span, helps to manage weight, improves flexibility, balance, and posture, teaches correct breathing techniques, promotes mindfulness, and encourages self-love and self-care. Another program that we have on Thursdays after school is the Kid Fit Club. This is provided by Quest Studio. Tally Walsh is the instructor, who is a former West Scranton graduate. After-school program incorporates movement and discussion of healthy choices. We have various sports clinics throughout the year. I typically partner with Marywood University and Penn State University to provide sports clinics, and most of them are alumni of our own schools. And then our parent and family engagement community supports. Based on our population, we found that children were obviously struggling within school, worrying about their home environment. So we try to provide what we can for them. Uniforms. Uniforms are available on site at Sumner. All new students are given a set of uniforms. We found that that was a barrier to students starting school. So if any child isn't in need of a uniform, they are given them. Winter coats, hats, and gloves are distributed to students as needed throughout the year. Book bags and school supplies at our annual family fair. Food resources, like many of our schools, the Weinberg Foundation, free monthly food distribution, children's produce market, free breakfast and lunch for all of our students. Medical and dental support services is our Smiles Free Dental program. Hygiene items, free lice kits if needed, toothbrushes, deodorant, children's socks, and underwear. Right Center Free Clinic, located at West Intermediate School, and seasonal family support. We have taken on this mission to service the child. Halloween costumes, gifts from Santa and Toy Drive, pajamas in a book Christmas program, Easter baskets, random gift cards for shoes, haircuts, and the basic needs of the family. So obviously the goal was to break any barrier to our children coming to school and to best support not only the child, but our family as our community. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Cognetti, anything from PSBA?
Nothing new tonight. We'll be voting in officers for PSBA. That's all I have.
Okay. Dr. Curie, do you have anything to report other than asking Mr. Coleman to come and speak about the Blue Ribbon?
Right. I've asked Mr. Coleman in my absence to please provide that report to the board.
Good evening, members of the Scranton School Board, citizens of Scranton, teachers. My name is Michael Coleman, for those of you who do not know me, and I am the principal of Robert Morris Elementary School. Last week, Robert Morris was informed that we were granted the Blue Ribbon School Award across the entire country. It is a prestigious honor. We were one of 300 public schools to get this award. There are 2 categories for the Blue Ribbon School, and Robert Morris qualified under Closing the Achievement Gap. And it is a true honor to receive this award. It is the hard work of our teachers that I truly believe got Robert Morris this award. It's also award for the parents and for the students also of Robert Morris for creating such a positive, what I believe is a homeschool connection. Without the teachers, without our parents, and without the students, this award obviously would not be possible. I also believe that this award is because of principals who followed before me, as well as teachers. In my 12 years as a principal or as an assistant principal, we are principals, but that role has, in my mind, totally changed to not only principal, but also to an instructional leader. The teachers and myself, our jobs have changed, that we now have to look at student data, and we have to look at areas where students are performing well, and look at areas where students are struggling. And so that is the challenge now, to see where our students are, and to see where we can get them. And that's where Robert Morris fell under, is closing the achievement gap. Our goal as educators is to grow students. Whether they're kindergarten, first or second grade, we need to move them up the ladder each and every year. So that is our goal. It is a true honor to get this Blue Ribbon School Award. I thank Dr. Kirian, I thank Mr. Geneleza, Ms. Keating, Ms. McTiernan, and all the members of the Board of Education. And please, you are welcome to stop by Robert Morris. Our doors are always open. Please stop by and meet some of our teachers and our students. So thank you very much.
Yes, Dr. Kirian.
There are only 19 schools in the state of Pennsylvania who have received this prestigious recognition, and Mr. Coleman and I, along with one of his teachers, will be going to Washington in early November for the award ceremony, and we will be bringing back a banner for Robert Morris School to be hung in the school and be recognized as a Blue Ribbon School. So this is a tremendous honor for that school, the teachers, the principals, the whole community that rallies around that school and participates in making sure that there are improvements, and that's what we're all about. So I thank Mr. Coleman, the teachers, and that community. We would not have been able to do it unless everyone was working together.
Thank you, Doctor, and I think I speak on part of the entire board to say how proud we are of Mr. Coleman and the teachers and the achievements that they've earned. I know this is a really prestigious award. At this time, we are at the public comment part of our meeting. Speakers are welcome to speak on agenda and non-agenda items. The board will listen and not respond to any speakers. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person, and each person has one opportunity at the microphone, regardless of minutes used, or any unused minutes may not be passed to another speaker. Union and government officials are provided with 4 minutes. The board secretary will time the comments and alert the chair when time has expired, and we will let you know that your time has expired and allow you to finish your sentence. The board will not allow any derogatory comments or calling anyone names. At this time, I'd like to call our first speaker of the evening, Jerry Balda with SFT 1147.
Good evening, directors. My name is Jerry Baldoff. I am with the Scranton Federation of Teachers. I am a trustee for that union. 2 items on the agenda for contract I'd like to touch base with. One is the replacement of bleachers at South and Reading, and the other is German at West High. The bleachers at South Scranton and Reading, the contract states I'm rounding off, $175,000 for replacement. And it also states in the particulars that it is 74 feet long and 12 tiers high. In comparison, here at West High, we have 3 tiers on each side for a total of 6. So 6 tiers at West High, 74 feet long, and you're replacing South Intermediate double what we have here at West High. My question during the discussion is to ask yourselves, do we need that capacity at an intermediate school? You only have very few athletic events there, and does it really need to be twice that at the high school? So I believe you could cut that probably in half, saving good money on that one. The second one then would be the German here at West High. It is, we're voting to accept an Apex, that is a cyber school. And let me explain that we do already have Apex here at West High for the Scranton School District, but the way this one works is totally different. This one, to be understood, is the students will sit in a classroom. There will be housed in a classroom with a teacher. That teacher could be a phys ed teacher, could be a health teacher, could be a science teacher, could be a math teacher, could be a shop teacher. That teacher, for instance, let's say it's a shop teacher, will be sitting in there with maybe 15, 16 German students. The teacher that you want to hire is not going to be in this district. They may be from Seattle, Washington, for example. That's where the company is based out of. Those students then, if they have any questions, they will have to direct all their questions to that teacher. That, right off the top, is against the bargaining agreement. You're going to be hiring someone to do our work. So during discussion today, I'm sure President Dixon would explain to you, as a former principal, that it is against the contract. I'm sure if you ask Mr. Menora, he would explain that that is against the contract. Also, there is something we have called an Apex Committee. Ms. Keenan rushed after the work session last Monday to convene the committee. We got together for about an hour. We discussed the pros and cons, and we unanimously voted down the proposal that you are considering. I also want you to know that on that committee there are administration representatives. So administrators voted on that, and it was unanimously voted down. So I don't know how it made it all the way to your desk, but please consider and ask the correct questions at the time and vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowler. Diana Harris, Christopher Drive. Christopher Drive is in Kaiser Valley. I didn't know where that was. Yeah, thank you. I'm Diana Harris, and I'm here as a taxpayer. First of all, I want to say I commend the two previous speakers about Sumner and Robert Morris. That is great to hear. I saw the article about Robert Morris in the paper, and I was proud then. So, as a taxpayer, I come before you to say that I am sick to think of all the monies that have been wasted in the past. The past administration caused the problems, the teachers are being blamed, and the taxpayers and the students are the ones paying the price, with increased taxes for the taxpayers and cut curriculum for the students. I want to believe that this board will do the right thing needed to plug the black hole which good tax dollars are being dumped. Increasing taxes is not always the answer. Cutting teacher staffing is not either. Mindful spending and checks and balances is the way. You asked the state to do an investigation. Why would the board be proposing that we do a separate investigation with taxpayer dollars? Why don't we wait until the state finishes what they're doing and follow their advice? Most people are apathetic, and you can see by the limited taxpayers in the audience here. Okay? They believe that it's always been done this way and it always will be done this way. And I charge the board, be the change. Thank you. Thank you, oh. I didn't know if it was Henahan or Heenahan.
Luann Heenahan, President 32BJ. First off, I'd like to say I'm very sorry for the loss of Director Carol Oleski. Carol was always there for our union. She didn't always give us our way, but she always listened, and that's all we ever ask. Listen to us. She was a good woman who was, very important in the community, and she will be greatly missed. On another note, the investigation, I ask that you all consider to go and go with the investigation, but make sure that it's a fair investigation. Make sure that you have proof of wrongdoing on all parties' parts before you make any decisions, because that could lead you down a road you don't want to go down, to lawsuits. So I just want to make everybody aware of that. That's really all I have to say, because 32BJ is watching. Thank you.
Thank you, Luann. Bob Wallace, Scranton.
Evening, Bob Wallace, Scranton. I'd like to start off with my comments to Boland, where she made the comment, they are not slaves. To the contrary, she's a dictator, and so is everyone else. We are the slaves of this district. I'm repeating what she put in the newspaper. She made it a public comment.
Okay.
And I'm disappointed that she stood there with a bullhorn in her mouth. Remind me of a wild animal barking with no teeth. We are the people that make the rules.
We can't have
She should be held accountable just like everybody else on this board, all those that were responsible for the situation we're in. We're the taxpayers that pay what goes on here. There's a lack of concern for the bills, and anybody in this room who wants to sit here and mouth off has to remember something.
I have to ask that everyone
Budget
be
and
quiet,
finance that you people put out and it goes to everybody. Where were their heads when this was going on with all the issues that took place with the fees, the fuel, and everything else? Don't sit here and make us accountable for your lack of attention and your ignorance to your own finances. You're educated people, act in that manner. You have 185 days. You get paid for 185 days. After that, you start paying your own insurance. You start running this district like a business. Layoffs come in any business, any shape or form. You're accountable. You're accountable for the mistakes. You're accountable for what happened here. You go on strike. Well, I intend the next time you do a strike, and you take our employees and they don't come to work, and they lose wages, or our employees can't drive trucks and go out and do their job for our customers, we're going to sue you for our losses. You're accountable to work here, to show up for 185 days, whether you like it or not. And we're going to make you accountable. We're going to teach you how the real world actually works, because we've had enough. You've destroyed our infrastructure. I played on this stage many years ago. I played trumpet here and I played football for West Side. I'm a Scrantonian lifelong. And it just turns my stomach to see what goes on here.
You could wrap it up, Mr. Bowles, 3 weeks.
Those that are responsible for where we are need to offer their resignation. And the first one that should resign is Boland, because we're kind of sick and tired of hearing her. And on Saturday and Sunday, if I may finish, your school days that you take off for meetings, remember, you cost people money. Take those days and take them on Saturday and Sunday, just like you did the past Friday, close the school down. We have to look for people to go to work because the teachers took a day to have a meeting.
Your time is up.
You can cut us short, but let me tell you something. Our voice is going to get a whole lot louder. Trust me, Ms. Dixon, it's going to get a hell of a lot louder than you giving us 3 minutes to straighten out the issues you people created.
Go back to jail.
Okay, Suzanne Fury, SFT.
is Suzanne Fury. I am a first grade teacher at Neil Armstrong Elementary, SFT member, and I am very sorry at the loss of Carol Oleski. A couple things I wanted to talk about. Our situation with our air quality at our school. This was the first day today that we did not have very large, very loud dehumidifiers right in our classrooms. And the minute they were shut off, we now have rooms that are freezing cold and we have rooms that are hot. We have rooms that are moist, our papers are crinkling. It's just not right. It has never been right since they did this work. And I know Service Master was there today. I'm concerned. There's an odor in our building, in the rooms that are warm. And I'm hoping that that's going to be monitored because it's very concerning to have all of our children who have medical conditions. I'm hoping it's also very difficult to teach with very loud dehumidifiers. If you remember when you have the meetings at the ad building, and I think the last one, it was requested that the air conditioner be turned off. It's very, very difficult for the teachers. The teachers are actually straining their voices and the children are having difficulty hearing. The next thing I wanted to talk about the schedule. As you know, the 5-minute travel time has been cut. It honestly is an awful thing. I want you to think about if you have a meeting at 10 o'clock, if you leave your home or leave your office at 10 o'clock to go to that meeting, you're late. I am asked to finish my reading class at 10 o'clock and be at lunch or be wherever I'm supposed to be. And the children are losing instructional time every day. Plus, we have over 300 children in the hallway, more close to 400 at one time. We teach our children to walk in a straight line quietly in the hall. We have 3 lines of students. Sometimes the little ones, the 5-year-olds, are in the middle. They don't even know where to go at this point. I really don't know if you really thought what that means, the implementation of that. There is no time. We are literally rushing our children to where they need to be, rushing them back, looking at the clock, and tallying up the lost time because they are losing instructional time. Please consider that. I hope there's going to be a change. It just doesn't work. And I also have to say, as I will forever, that we have no libraries. At a time in our city and our nation when literacy for children and their parents is declining, we don't have a library. And I know someone may say, well, they can go and get a book every 2 weeks. That is not being in a situation with a certified teacher, a certified librarian. I sincerely hope you can find a way. This is awful to me, that most of our children will never see the inside of a library and have the benefit of a professional. And just seriously consider these cuts because you're hurting our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Gerard Heckman,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Scranton School District. Gerard Heckman from the Lackawanna County Commissioner's Office. To begin this evening, on behalf of Lackawanna County Commissioners, and for myself personally, my sympathies on the passing of Director Oleski. She was kind and a welcoming woman, a very nice person to deal with every time I talk to her. Many times before or after board meetings or in the community, she's always a great person to see. So my sympathies to everyone. She'll be missed. The items we have to talk about this evening. The first is an initiative that's making its way around the community now, and we look forward to seeing it not just start off well, but grow and expand and take on many different facets as we go forward. It's called Parents for a Second Time. It's run through the Lackawanna County Area Agency on Aging, and it starts out with support groups, 3 groups around the county, including one that meets at the Scranton Public Library. We eventually see it hope to grow and develop into a number of different categories. It's designed to support older adults, in many cases grandparents, who are raising younger children, in many cases their grandchildren, hence the name Parents for a Second Time. We've seen this as a growing need, not just in Lackawanna County, but also across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania has put emphasis on this for something the county should support, try to support the populations with through their human service agencies. So we'll leave all the information with you, and we encourage you to share it with those you know in the district who may be able to benefit from the support. The group at the Scranton Public Library meets on the 3rd Wednesday of every month from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. It's one of 3 groups that meets at county libraries that are currently up and running. and it's a growing and evolving initiative. So if we see the need for more support and different things to do with it, the area exec agent would be happy to support that. The name is Rebecca Munley, who was the caseworker assigned with. We have her contact info here. So please share this and make good use of it. We know there's lots of folks in the district, I'm sure, who could use the service. So please make it known and share it where you see necessary. We also have a few other items now. Penn State Extension in Lackawanna County is running a workshop called Old and New 3 Threats. Focuses on education and prevention of 3 different insect species that can damage environmental factors in plants and other industries and quality of life issues that deal with nature in trees, plants, shrubs, that type of thing. There are 3 invasive species. It's a really neat workshop. It's Monday, October 22nd, 6 to 8 p.m. at Lackawanna College's Environmental Education Center. Should be a really neat program for anyone interested in that from a student or faculty perspective. And just also a reminder that the last Tuesday of the month, 4:30 p.m. in the Marketplace in Steamtown, is the Creative Arts 4-H Club that focuses on beginning sewing, drawing, and crafting. Lots of programs. A few other items here for you, those are basics. So thank you, and just at the end of the month, we'll have more information as we want about the county budget. October 15th is the date that the budget is normally released, so we'll share information with that when I see you next. We'll also follow that online, so keep an eye out for it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Holly.
Northeast Intermediate School. I'd like to speak about the middle school schedule. Our 6th grade students currently are in academic classes from 11:37 a.m. to 3:25 p.m. without a break. 4 continual hours of instructional time. Most of us can't sit through a 4-hour meeting and stay focused, yet you're expecting 11 and 12-year-olds to sit for 4 straight hours. Last week, we were given a schedule for our library. Each class is allowed to go to the library for 27 minutes, once every 3 weeks. That's correct, once every 3 weeks. Students are not allowed to go to the library by themselves because they must be accompanied by a teacher. So if you're a good reader and you finish your book early in 4 or 5 days, you still can't go until that 3-week period is up. Our faculty of teachers at Northeast Intermediate went from a solid 70 to 56. We lost 14 teachers. Some took jobs in other districts, some had to take jobs in other schools, and some retired. When we lost them, we also lost our computer class. Teachers are allowed to sign up to use the computer lab, but there is no longer a related arts class on teaching children how to use a computer. So no one is teaching our students how to use Word, how to use Google, how to use Google Classroom, how to create a PowerPoint, all the things that they were taught previous years. As a school board member, I'm sure you're thinking, well, nobody told me about this. This is not what I agreed upon when I voted to furlough those teachers. This is because you were only told what the administrators wanted you to hear. Yeah. You heard we can save money by cutting teachers, but what you didn't hear is how it would impact our students. This leads me to one conclusion. You are not getting reliable information from administration. The truth is not being told to you. For example, you were told that the administrators agreed to a 4% decrease in pay. The administrators never, ever agreed to this, and their pay has stayed exactly the same. But yet, you were told that this had occurred. When I'm done speaking, hopefully one of you will ask for clarification on this. There are 9 members on this school board that are allowed to vote on policy. Only 9 that get to make decisions in the Scranton School District, not 10. The first resolution that you should propose tonight is one allowing all 9 board members to speak to the public during public comment. How will you ever know as a board member who is telling the truth if you can't follow up with a question? I believe that silencing the board has harmed this school district and caused chaos to thrive. Many of you ran for this office wanting to help students, help the taxpayers, and on transparency. Someone seeking transparency should not be silenced. You are not getting all the information you need.
time up.
All the information you've asked for.
Ms. Hayes, your time is up.
Okay, this has been going on for 3 years. All the deception and lies need to stop because they are hurting the students in Scranton. The 9 of you are in charge of this district. Please exert your power and end the city's misery. I notice on item 17, you are voting on public comments and public policy. It looks like you're increasing the minutes to 5. I would also increase being able to respond to speakers. If you want, if you don't want to ask a question, you don't have to, but you should be allowed to respond to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. I'll turn it rolling. Next up, please.
Good evening, directors. My name is Rosemary Boland, and I do live in Scranton, and I do, like you, Mr. McAndrew, pay my taxes here. And just as an aside, I do have all my teeth, and they are my own. And like the rest of this union of mine, we are so appreciative to live in the United States of America, which we feel is great already, but we also believe firmly in the Bill of Rights, and I believe firmly in the fact that everyone in this room should have the right to speech, free speech, under the Constitution of this country. And I respect that no matter who speaks or what they say. I think we all should do that. And I think you should have the right to free speech as well as elected officials to the board in the city of Scranton. So, what you just heard from several of our people are all true facts. You know, this is not opinion time, this is fact time, and you just heard fact. And I'm sure if you were to speak to the 900 paraprofessionals and teachers in this district, you would hear the same repeated facts. We hope you've been enlightened by a little bit of what you just heard. We also hope that you take into account the conditions within our buildings. We want you to carefully study the impact of this so-called energy program that has been put in play in our district. We're concerned because in each of our buildings we're being told exactly what you heard earlier, that some classrooms there is no heat, other classrooms that's all they have, and there are devices on the radiators to prevent heat from circulating in the whole entire classroom. So this is becoming a serious issue, and we need that looked at before it gets worse than it already is. And we already understand mold. We've had that in our district long enough, and this type of heating system is going to cause more and more mold. As far as closing schools, I don't know what that is in reference to, other than to know that last Friday in the Scranton School District, we had an in-service day. Teachers reported as normal for their day of in-service, and the students get to stay home that day. That's part of the state code. We don't get to change that. And so, in closing, the Scranton Federation of Teachers extends our deepest sympathy to the family of Carol Oleski. She was a great lady. We had a lot of laughs together, shared coffee together, and I think I'm going to miss her. And like my friend behind me, we too didn't agree on everything. Carol and I didn't always agree. We discussed politely, I think, in friendship, and I would hope that that kind of behavior goes forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. Kevin Case.
Good evening, directors. Just a few comments and a couple of questions. You know, if you're not allowed to speak during your time later, I'd appreciate if you would reach out to me with the answers to the questions. If you have them, I don't know if you want to address it or not, but just request them. Last June, you passed a motion, a resolution, that allowed for the destruction of all audio and video of board meetings that are older than 7 years, and the reason given was to save space. And I think prior to that motion being acted on, I spoke out and said, really in the digital age, that stuff takes up no space at all. You can put it up on an iCloud, you can load it up to YouTube, and anything that's on the old film can be, put on digital and stored the same way, taking up no space. So I'm wondering if there were any other reasons for getting rid of, those older videos. If you could answer that at some point in time, I'd be interested. I'd also be interested in knowing who brought that forward as a resolution. Who decided that might be a good idea to get rid of those audio and video of those board meetings that may provide evidence or clearance. I see head shaking. You don't seem to know, but if you could find out, I'd be interested in knowing whose idea it was to get rid of them. Like the words. Did the words, when you were voting on that, did the words appearance of impropriety come to mind? Did obstruction of justice enter into your minds before you voted yes to do that? I don't know. In the middle of a state attorney general's grand jury investigation, it would seem that you wouldn't want to be getting rid of things when they're looking at the district so closely. The other question I have has to do with $4 million of fuel surcharges that were called into question by Auditor General DePasquale, saying that there seemed to be no agreement. And then one surfaced for a while when Chris Kelly asked for it through a right to know request. But according to his report in the Times, he said that the signature page seemed to be faulty, that it had a signature of a board member who was not president of the board at the time in 2006, and that person who signed said that was not a signature page from that agreement. So my question is, why isn't the district? Why are we pursuing that $4 million? Who is giving you advice to leave that alone? I'd be interested in knowing that. So that's all. Thank you very much.
That concludes our public speaking for this evening. At this time, I'm now accepting a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I'd like to remove P1 for discussion, please.
I just need a second.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Cognitive. I'd like to discuss P1 separately, please.
It's just removed.
Just roll call now. Roll call.
Roll call. Okay. Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Cognetti?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Ms. Gilmartin?
Yes.
Mr. Lesh?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
This is a roll call poll. Do you want consent?
Yes.
Yes. Do a roll call? No, it's for the all consent.
You're right, Mr. Casey. Thank you. Mrs. Dixon?
Yes.
Okay. So the consent agenda passes. P1 is removed at the
Yes.
request of Director Cognetti, and that will be, I guess, considered under transportation and read separately.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Lesh?
Now we're going to athletics and stadium. Director Casey.
Thank you. Members of the Board of School Directors of the City of Scranton, it is the recommendation of the Superintendent and Athletics and Stadium Committee that the following resolution be approved. Whereas, an agreement between the Athletic Department of Lackawanna College and the Scranton School District, the terms and conditions of the agreement will be in effect for the 2018 fall season time period of Wednesday, August 1st, 2018, until Friday, November 30th, 2018, between Lackawanna College and the Scranton School District. And whereas a reduced practice rental fee will be issued for the use of PenFed Field at Veterans Memorial Stadium for the 2018 fall season for football practices and scheduled games from Wednesday, August 1st, 2018 until Friday, November 30th, 2018. The day, 6 weekend practices, 4 Saturday, 2 Sunday. Per practice rental fee will be $250 per practice, and the night, no more than 2 nights per week, per practice rental fee of $350. The scheduled 3 scheduled games for Saturday, October 6th, 2018, Saturday, October 13th, 2018, and Sunday, November 4th, 2018, per game rental fee of $2,500. A detailed 2018 fall practice and game schedule must be provided to the Scranton High School administration. And whereas, in exchange for reduced rental fees for the use of PenFed Field at Veterans Memorial Stadium during the 2018 fall season, the Lackawanna College Athletic Department will allow the Scranton School District the use of the gymnasium for 3 basketball games for the West Scranton High School boys varsity team. The dates for these games are Tuesday, January 8th, 2019, Tuesday, January 15th, 2019, and Friday, February 1st, 2019, at no charge. And whereas a certificate of insurance must be submitted to Central Administration, Mr. Joe Walsh, Scranton School District Event Coordinator, prior to the start of the fall season. And whereas Lackawanna College is responsible for law enforcement if required to provide adequate adult supervision for the safety and conduct of players and spectators. And whereas access to facilities shall be limited to the specific area of PenFed Field at Veterans Memorial Stadium. And whereas alteration to PenFed Field at Veterans Memorial Stadium area are prohibited, and the Scranton School District owned equipment shall not be removed from the facility or loaned to Lackawanna College Athletic Department. And now, therefore, be it resolved, Lackawanna College is allowed to use PenFed Field at Veterans Memorial Stadium for practices during the 2018 fall season. Respectfully submitted.
Second. On the question?
Director Cognetti?
Yes.
Mr.
Sorry. On the question.
Forgive me.
I don't, that's okay. On this one,
Okay, now we're going into roll call.
Roll call?
Yes.
Mrs. Cognetti?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy? Yes. Ms. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Lesh?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mrs. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
8 affirmative.
Members of the Board of School Directors of the City of Scranton, it is the recommendation of the Superintendent and the Athletics and Stadium Committee the following resolution be approved. Whereas the Valley View High School swim team has requested the use of West Scranton Intermediate School for their practices and swim meets for the 2018-19 season. And whereas Valley View High School swim team will be charged a rental fee for the use of West Scranton Intermediate School's pool for scheduled practices and swim meets for the 2018-19 season, Friday, November 16th, 2018 until Friday, March 1st, 2019. Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., and swim meets 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And whereas the rental fees for practices will be $100 per hour and $600 per swim meet. And whereas, so that no scheduling conflicts occur, Valley View High School swim team is to provide a detailed practice schedule and swim meet dates to the administration of West Scranton Intermediate School. And whereas Valley View High School swim team is responsible for the safety and conduct of its participants and spectators. And whereas adequate adult supervision must be provided by Valley View High School. And whereas access to facilities shall be limited to the specific area of West Scranton Intermediate School pool area. And whereas alteration to the West Scranton Intermediate School pool are prohibited. And whereas the Scranton School District owned equipment shall not be removed from the facility or loaned to Valley View High School swim team. And now, therefore, be it resolved, the Valley View High School swim team is allowed to use the West Scranton Intermediate School pool for practices and swim meets during the 2018-19 season. Respectfully submitted.
Do I have a second? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you on the question. Roll call?
Mr. Duffy? Yes. Ms. Gilmartin?
Yes.
Mr. Lesh?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mrs. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Cognetti?
Yes.
8 affirmative, motion passes.
That's all for athletics.
Thank you, Director Casey. Director Cognetti, D2.
It is the recommendation of the superintendent that the following is approved, whereas the Scranton School District strives to provide students with an exemplary and contemporary education experience, whereas the Scranton School District offers diversity in world language selection and has conducted an exhaustive search for a German certified teacher. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors supports the implementation and adoption of the contract for German 1 and 2 on the Apex Learning Platform for the 2018-2019 school year. Respectfully submit.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, we have exhausted all possible avenues to find a current German teacher in the district. I just wanted to know for the record.
You were given an information sheet.
Wait a minute.
I've asked Keating to address this with the board.
Yeah, she's got it.
She's up here, Doctor.
Thank you.
I don't need a mic, but I apologize for that. So I gave you a sheet in your packet that you can see the timeline there. During the summer, this position was interviewed for and appointed 2018 in the summer. On August 30th, the person who was appointed to that position resigned. There was a Penlink sent out twice for those who are unfamiliar with Penlink. Penlink is a system that advertises across the entire Commonwealth through Mr. David's office. The job is still advertised on our district website as well. And then October 2nd, which that's when we were going to meet for the board meeting, we were still unable to secure a German certificated teacher at that time. The Penlink, we will put another Penlink out, and we will continue to advertise for this position on the webpage.
I have a question, Ms. Keating. The alternative to this, I know finding German teachers has been a problem for years. So if we don't do this, now Mr. Baldock said it's a violation of the CBA. So our alternative is we discontinue German?
Well, if you looked at, that was one of the suggestions. So you have the motion from the Apex committee there, and their suggestions and their concerns that were voiced during that. That's written on this paper for you as well. You also have the current course enrollment that was registered for in the brick and mortar school, which was German 1, 26, German 2, 14, and German 3, 4, which is 13, which is a total of 53 students. Then you have the students who were interested in pursuing that online, which would be German 1, 12, German 2, 9, German 3, 4, 13, for a total of 34 of the 53 students who would be interested in pursuing that online. Yes, in the motion for the Apex committee that they put there, and again, you do have that there for your review.
We don't have that, sorry.
Oh.
We don't actually have that. We were not given
the
that.
handouts?
No.
No. I brought extras.
Thank you.
Just in case.
Mrs. Dixon, point of clarification. The German teacher from West Scranton High School was one of the 99 teachers for
Correct.
Okay.
That is on the second sheet there from the Apex committee, just so you know that was one of the things brought up by the committee. My job is to give you all the information that you can have to make an informed vote right now. If you don't continue the program, you'll see that underneath the enrollment figures that the students are not currently scheduled into other languages. Scheduling complexities could come into place in a master's schedule with being able to absorb in the French and Spanish. You also have staffing implications going over class contracts max in Spanish and French, where you'd be hiring a language teacher or appointing someone to one of those positions as well.
Okay, so if we had a German teacher and the teacher was furloughed, we said when we were furloughing that we would call back to positions where we needed. Was this teacher offered a job, do we know?
Mr. Gaynor is not here. I don't want to speak for him. And I cannot answer that question of when that person was informed of it may be called back with clarity, so I wouldn't want to go on the record right now.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, sure.
This matter, since we really don't have that, I think it might be a good idea too.
The only thing that I'm going to say is I have 53 kids in the hub. And I'm saying that with all due respect. I know we have an education committee meeting on Monday, which I will be in attendance at. If you need me to prepare something more, you 53 kids I have been scheduled. That's where I schedule them, I just got to get 53 kids scheduled.
So what are these kids doing now?
Right now they're basically in a study because we don't have a certificated teacher to facilitate class.
Nobody wants to be, they don't want to be a teacher without a contract. Sounds like
I mean, I unfortunately, I'm just receiving this information right now that, and Mr. Baldoff said the Apex Learning Committee opposes this. It's difficult to get that information tonight on stage.
Just so everyone knows, we have a motion that was proposed by the Apex Committee, worded exactly as it was, the May the 2nd. The vote, I'm not a voting member, I facilitate the committee, just so you know that. You also have in point number 2 on the second page, A, B, C, D, and E, which were the points brought forward by the Apex Committee.
Who are the administrators on the committee?
There's multiple, but some people weren't at the meeting. I can send you the sign-in sheet if you want me to.
Okay, but it was a unanimous vote that this should not.
The people at the meeting that day that were able to attend, and again, it was an emergency meeting. Once this information was brought forward, I was contacted by a member of the Apex Committee saying it wasn't brought forward. Thanks to the principals, I was able to secure coverage for people. We pulled what members of the committee were able to meet. The motion was made and voted on at that meeting, which would have taken place, I believe, on Friday, right before the board meeting, the Friday before the board meeting. This was typed up there. So you have all the information there from the enrollment figures, the requests, the cost, the Apex Committee vote, and the Apex Committee information.
So the situation at hand is 53 kids are in the study. The alternate suggestion would be finding new places for them to discontinue the program, or we can continue with Mr. Lesch's idea of the table, and Tuesday night would it be possible, or Monday night would it be possible to entertain a special meeting following the Education Committee meeting to accept this with more information. I don't like waiting the remaining 3 days, but I mean.
The only thing I'm going to ask on a personal note is.
Mr. Casey, I have information. The teacher who was teaching German at West Scranton resigned. They went to Abington Heights to teach. So that's that situation. I thought I would inquire.
After they were furloughed. After they were furloughed.
Please we're trying to hear. Please be quiet.
If there's any additional information that you need, I just need you to know that I am out of town. I will publicly announce that over the course of this weekend. So I will be around tomorrow to be able to prepare anything. I'll be back Monday afternoon. So just so you know where I am right now. You have all the information by number, by cost, and by word to have that to make an informed decision.
I don't expect you to know this on the fly, but it'd be useful.
Hear what I said about our German teacher?
We heard it loud and clear, Doctor.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Director Cognetti. You have the floor.
Ms. Keating, I certainly don't expect you to have this on the fly, but something maybe tomorrow or Monday afternoon to prepare that would be helpful is, we can't be the first school district with this type of situation. We might not even be the first board in this school district with this type of situation. If we could figure out what some other comparables are, that might help guide us a little bit here.
The only thing that you have to consider when you're making that decision is that every CDA in every district is different, so you have to work with the constraints of the CDA to that particular district. I can give you what other districts have done, but I will not be able to give you their CDA.
Oh, I completely understand that, but I think it would be very useful to understand how other districts have done this. I know this, again, this can't be the only time that this has ever happened, so you could get some of that data or have somebody get that to us for Monday. That would be
Yeah, I'll try to get the calls out, I'll have that. If I can get it to you, I'll either email it.
Yeah, and maybe Apex would even have some of that data. I don't know these companies very well, but.
And again, you have to consider the place in the country where it's being implemented and what the ramifications of it is CBA.
Sure.
Mr. Lesh, do you want to go forward with tabling this? Do I have a second?
Anything else for me?
One more thing, it might not be for you, Ms. Keating, but, so at this point in time, the German teacher is no longer in the district.
We do not have a German certificated teacher. We don't have a German certificated teacher. We will continue to look for a German certificated teacher. There are certain certifications. I mean, they're just hard. I mean, you know, I can rattle off 4 or 5 of them that it's not as easy to find people for because of you know, going to college and majoring and being highly qualified in that subject area.
So if we don't have a German teacher any longer, we are currently continuing to search for a teacher. And one of the comments from the Apex Committee was the word only be attached to the school year. So maybe we'll be looking at it at that special meeting and get the word only for the 2018-2019 school year.
Mr. Menor, we had a second on the motion.
Waiting on the questions.
Okay.
Thanks, folks.
Roll call?
Ms. Gilmartin?
Yes.
Mr. Lesh? Yes. Mr. McAndrew? Yes. Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mrs. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Cognetti?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy? Yes. 8 affirmative, the motion to table passes.
D3, members of.
Dixon?
Yes.
I'm not sure I heard what's happening. You were tabling that till the Education Committee meeting and then calling a special meeting after that meeting the same night?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
For a point of clarification, is the Education Committee meeting Wednesday night?
It's the 15th,
The 15th?
right?
Yes.
That'd be next week. Thank you.
Yeah, Monday the 15th. Members of the Board of School Directors of the City of Scranton, it is the recommendation of the Superintendent and the Education Committee that the following resolution be approved. Whereas the Wells Fargo Foundation established a grant to provide funds to educational agencies to enable schools to make improvements to student educational experiences. Whereas the Wells Fargo Foundation desires to contribute to the personal growth, educational development, and the social emotional well-being of students served. Whereas the Scranton School District has received notification that the grant proposal submitted by the principal of McNichols Plaza has been selected to receive $65,000 for the 2018-19 school year, whereas funds will be made available from October 2nd through October 20th of 2018 to begin implementation of equipment and supplies and planning for a signature day of caring, which will take place on October 20th, commencing at 8 a.m. Funds will be distributed to the Scranton School District through the Scranton Area Foundation. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scranton School District officially agrees to participate in the Wells Fargo Foundation Signature Day of Caring grant effective immediately. Respectfully submitted.
Second.
On the question? Roll call?
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Cognetti?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy? Yes. Ms. Gilmartin?
Yes.
Mr. Lesh?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mrs. Dixon?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
D4, members of the Board of School Directors of the City of Scranton, it is the recommendation of the Superintendent and the Education Committee that the following resolution be approved. Whereas PA Schools Work is a coalition of organizations from across Pennsylvania working together to advocate for Pennsylvania public schools, their students, and the communities they serve. Whereas PA Schools Work's mission is to ensure that every child, regardless of their background or where they live, is attending a public school that has the funds necessary to help them succeed. Whereas PA Schools Work Action Summit is looking for 2 leaders from each Pennsylvania school district to advocate for adequate and fair public education funding. Therefore, be it resolved that the Scranton School Board hereby appoints 2 individuals to represent the Scranton School District with PA Schools Work. Respectfully submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
The question, do we have to have, we do have to have members selected for this before we vote?
Right, so what came in our packet is that there's an engagement in Harrisburg on Saturday, November 17th. It's Communities United for Our Students' Future. I actually spoke with somebody from the organization, and they are trying to get as many districts represented as possible. They also said if more than 2 representatives from our school district would like to come, they would be happy to have us down there. So haven't discussed this yet. We could discuss this at the meeting on Monday night if that's preferable. And people can check their calendars. And I don't know Ms. Keating and Dr. Kieran if there are folks from the administration who might want to go. It might be best to discuss this at the meeting.
I'll make a motion to table.
Yeah.
Second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Cognetti?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Ms. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Lesh?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mrs. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Motion to table passes 8-0.
Okay, Director Schuster.
To the members of the Board of School Directors of the City of Scranton, it is the recommendation of the Superintendent and Labor Relations Committee that the following resolution be approved. Whereas an extension of the collective bargaining agreement for the single tax office has been proposed per the attached memorandum of understanding, and therefore be it resolved that the school district of the City of Scranton does hereby approve the extension of the 2013 to 2017 CBA of the single tax office, January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2020. Be it further resolved that this approval is contingent upon the approval of the City of Scranton. Respectfully submitted.
On the question? Roll call?
Mr. Duffy?
I'm going to abstain. My wife has been a member of the tax office since 2006.
Okay, Ms. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Lesh?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mrs. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Cognetti?
Yes.
Motion passes 7 with 1 abstention.
That is all, President Dixon.
Thank you. Director Schuster, Director Gilmore.
It is the recommendation of the superintendent and the policy committee that the following resolution be approved. Whereas the following policy 903, second read, has been revised by the Scranton School District Board Policy Committee. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Scranton School Board hereby approves revisions to policy number 903 as a second read recommended by the Scranton School District School Board Policy Committee. Respectfully submitted.
Second.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I do just want to point out that at our policy committee meeting, I think it was last week, we did add a line after the presiding officer may refer a question to a committee chair or administrator or request that the question be submitted in writing to the board secretary. I was also uncomfortable with limiting discussion and the ability to answer questions. I certainly understand putting parameters around it, but I think this is a happy medium, and if we need to address it again, we certainly can.
Anyone else? Roll call?
Ms. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Lesh?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mrs. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Director Cognetti?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
8 affirmative, motion passes.
Director Casey?
To the members of the Board of School Directors of the City of Scranton, it is the recommendation of the Superintendent and the Personnel Committee that the attached list of appointments, resignations, and leaves of absences is approved. Appointments are effective upon receipt of proper criminal records, immigration, medical, and child abuse reports. Salaries are in accordance with the collective bargaining agreements. Respectfully submitted.
On the question? Roll call?
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Director Cognetti?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Dr. Gomar?
Yes.
Dr. Lesh?
Yes.
Dr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Dr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Dixon?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Members of the Board of School Directors of the City of Scranton. These employees have completed at least 3 years of professional service with satisfactory ratings. For achieving the status of professional employee under the school code, it is the recommendation of the superintendents of schools that the professional contracts be issued to the following individuals. Would you like me to read all individuals? Okay. Angie Mara, Ashley Curtis, sorry for mispronouncing this one, Brian Bart, Brian Carey, Brittany Van Wert, Christopher Ort, Daniel Wetzel, Elizabeth Carranza, Gregory Giannakopoulos, Helen Margarovich, Jacqueline Macy, Jacqueline Wasserman, James Macy, Julianne McGloin, Casey Beck, Kaylee Lee, Kendra Cooper, Lindsay Strapick, Samantha Hayden, Sarah Balanucci, Tracy Doherty, Carissa Smith, Melissa Rinaldi, and Joseph McGuire. Respectfully submitted.
On the question? Roll call?
Director Buchanan?
Yes.
Director Schuster?
Yes.
Director Dixon?
Yes.
Director Casey?
Yes.
Director Cognetti?
Yes.
Director Duffy?
Yes.
Director Gilmore?
Yes.
Director Lesh?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Members of the Board of School Directors of the City of Scranton, it is the recommendation of the Superintendent and Personnel Committee that the following resolution be approved. Whereas the Scranton School District requires an attorney for general legal services. Whereas in accordance with the bid process timeline put into place by the Scranton School Board, the Scranton School District has sent out a request for proposals for general legal counsel, legal services. Whereas Sweet, Stevens, Katz, and Williams LLP submitted a proposal that has met all bid conditions. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Scranton School Board hereby appoints the law firms of Sweet, Stevens, Katz, and Williams LLP as its school solicitor to perform professional services for the district's legal needs. Such appointments is subject to stipulations set forward in the proposal, respectfully submitted.
Second? On the question?
On the question, I have one question. Who would this firm represent if there were to be a legal situation between us and their vendor that they represent, the NEIU? Do we know that? Was that put forth in the bid?
Is that a question?
Whomever reviewed the bid, that's the only question. Because I knew it wasn't an issue that was raised previously, but another school district, Riverside, when they left the CTC, I'm sure there was a litigious situation. And if the solicitor represented both, I'm sure that would be a conflict. That's my only question. We're about to award a pretty big contract, and that's the only reason I asked the question.
Would the NEIU be considered a vendor?
I think you'd have to ask Mr. Lafferty. I think we have contracts with them.
Yeah, we have a contract, and they go on a year for their food, at their budget. The vendor, Sweet Stevens, response, no current client representation of the competition, further representation of their school district would be unethical, improper, or wrong. And it appears that they have 900 IUs that they represent a district that will fall under that as well. How would we handle that exactly? I'm not familiar with the first situation.
Yeah, the only reason I just asked is because we did put that forward, that if they represent any other vendors, it should be listed. I understand that it might have been not realized, but I mean, if we could get a clarification on that, I would ask asked if we could just table it for now.
I don't know the answer to the question of whether the IU is a vendor. I'm sure we can get the.
I don't know, I just asked.
I don't know the answer to that question either. I would say that the law firm does represent the Abington Heights School District, so I don't think it would be, there must be.
The reason I only bring it up for our situation is we said there's a conflict with another firm that represents a vendor of ours currently, more so thought of. So normally I wouldn't have raised the situation. Those school districts didn't put it in their bid specs when they put it out. We did. That's the reason why I raised the question.
I would assume that our RFP was quite standard in terms of potential conflicts. I don't think that it was anything out of the ordinary.
Okay, I just asked the table for now, if there's a second.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Director Casey?
Yes.
Director Cognetti?
No.
Director Duffy?
Yes.
Director Gilmore?
Yes.
Director Lesh?
Yes.
Director McCampbell?
No.
Director Schuster?
No.
Director Dixon?
Yes.
6 affirmative, 3 negative. I'm sorry. 5 affirmative, 3 negative. Motion to table.
So with that, let's skip the answer to how that law firm works with the Abington Heights School District and others and other IUs. And let's add that to the special meeting agenda for Monday night. I'd also, just for the record, like to state that at this stage, that law firm, Sweet Stevens, is the only applicant for this particular position.
I have nothing further on personnel.
Okay. And special ed, education director Schuster. Oh, did I miss one?
Okay, buildings and grounds.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Before I even read this resolution, Mr. Baldoff made a great point, and I apologize for not even realizing it. And after he made a statement, I mean, my daughter played basketball 15 years ago for Western Media, and we go over there to games in South, and there was a sea of seats that probably weren't needed. So I think we go back, Mr. Brazil's here tonight, and see if we, how many seats we need, like bleachers, we really need to replace. And if we can replace less within that bank without affecting anything, I think we should do that and maybe save some money. So,
that before you read the motion.
all right. Motion to table. So.
Let's motion. I think that's a great idea. We have a second. Roll call.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Cognetti? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Ms. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Lesh?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mrs. Dixon?
Yes.
Motion to table passes 8-0.
Okay, now we go on to Director Schuster.
The members of the Board of Directors, the Superintendent and Special Education Committee hereby recommend the following resolution for your consideration. Whereas the school district of the city of Scranton is subject to administration proceedings and civil suits wherein the appropriateness of student special education programs have been challenged, which suits have been filed in the matters of LM 20794-1718, EM 20889-1718, JR 20946-1819, and MS 20984-1819. And whereas the parties have reached a settlement agreement in this matter upon the terms and conditions previously provided for your consideration, and therefore be it resolved that the settlements as indicated above be approved upon the terms and conditions as described, and the superintendent and the directors of special education are hereby authorized to execute any and all documents necessary to consummate this matter. Respectfully submitted.
On the question? Roll call.
Director Duffy? Yes. Director Gilmore? Yes. Director Lesh?
Yes.
Director Casey?
Yes.
Director Cognetti?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
Now we go to P1, right, transportation?
Yes.
Director Lush.
Members of the Board of School Directors of the City of Scranton, the Superintendent of Schools and the Transportation Committee submit the following resolution for your approval of transportation for the 2018-2019 school year. We have Monica Lee, 1514 Prospect Avenue. The amount is 56 cents per mile, and that's the annual cost of $928.80. Then we have Catherine Payon, 133 South Van Buren Avenue, Scranton, PA, 18504, 56 cents per mile, to an amount of $6,170.40. And I believe there's a question here.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that first.
Now we'll on the question.
I just wanted to make sure, and Mr. Laffey, I know Ms. Bebeloff is not here tonight, but I'm just making sure that that's the correct figure.
Second.
Roll call.
Director Schuster?
Yes.
Director Dixon?
Yes.
Director Casey?
Yes.
Director Cognetti?
Yes.
Director Duffy?
Yes.
Director Gilmore?
Yes.
Director Lesh?
Yes.
Director McAndrew?
Yes.
Motion to table passes 8-0.
New business?
Yes, I'd just like to say a few words on behalf of Director Oleski. Carol was a sweet person. She was a wonderful mother, not only just the mother to her own children, but to a lot of children that needed a mother. She supported her kids. She supported her kids with education. She'll surely be missed on this board. She was truly an example of loyalty and steadfastness when it came to the children of this district. So she'll be hard to replace and she'll be heartily missed. My prayers are with her family and God bless her. God rest her soul.
I also have something on new business that I'd like to echo a lot of stuff from Director Lesher. Mr. North would make a notation. This doesn't have to be very soon, but I'd like to schedule a intergovernmental committee meeting, just maybe at the same date and time for the November work session or prior to the actual November meeting, just to discuss two items: the furthering of the bill that we'd like to try to present for recurrent funding, as well as just an update on how we're doing with the intergovernmental relationship that we've started with the City of Scranton, that both Directors Cognetti and Directors Gilmore are serving on it. I think when we passed the resolution, it was a 6-month update that was part of the resolution. I'd just like to follow up with that. That's all I have. Thank you.
And I just have one thing to piggyback off tonight. Mr. McAndrew echoed the sentiments of Mr. Baldoff. With going forward with renovating the bleachers at South Scranton Intermediate, since we did do a boundary change to allow some of the kids that live in the Manuka and lower South Side areas, would it be considered that we renovate that gymnasium to, I know West Scranton was promised a gym, and it's something I'm disappointed that hasn't happened yet, but in the meantime, until district finances are appropriate to get to that point, could we potentially consider having West Scranton play their games at South Scranton Intermediate Gym, seeing the fact that it does hold more seats and it is more, and it is safer for those students. So I mean, going forward, if we can just consider that in the back of our minds, I don't know the feasibility of it. I don't know if it has it's all regulations for high school standards with PIAA or not, but if we can just consider that going forward so that the school does get an upgrade, the bleachers are safer, and it's a win-win at least for the West Scranton basketball boys and girls programs.
Are you talking about the high school or the JV?
The high school.
High school.
That's all I have.
Yeah, I wanted to address something that Mr. Case brought up. When we worked on the policy for meetings back at the end of last school year, in my view, it was a victory for transparency to now have not just these regular voting meetings, but also the work sessions and committee meetings recorded. I think many people saw the YouTube from last week's Labor Committee meeting. Until last spring, that committee meeting would not have been recorded at all. The 7-year piece was if you want to go back and look at the tape, I think that was a recorded meeting. That was a compromise between folks like myself who thought in perpetuity would be the best thing. We compromised at 7, but I don't think that fight is over. And it certainly was not backward looking. I'm certainly not under any impression that any records have been destroyed or mandated to be destroyed. I'll make sure that that has not happened. But everything about that policy, from my vantage point, was forward-looking and, again, very positive for transparency.
I believe that it was, Director Betty said that to be a minimum of 7 years, not a maximum, along with the non-destruction without prior approval, obviously.
Ms. Dixon, I can reassure you no records have been destroyed, and what we presented to the board was the records retention schedule that's put out by the state, and that was their recommendation. But no action has been taken on any records.
I thought that was the case. I was going to ask you that question, Doctor. Thank you.
Yes.
And I guess we could maybe put this up for the Monday meeting, just to think about the question of until everything is finished, there are no records to be destroyed at any time for any reason, for any purpose, period, until forever. I mean, until everything is more than finished with this current investigation, without prior board approval. That's at least something to think about for the next meeting.
And then just one other thing. So I know we have an education committee meeting on Monday, and there we will address the computer classes issue. That this is the first time hearing about tonight. I do think there is one issue that's popped up in the last couple of weeks, though, that is very time sensitive, and that's the grades at one of the high schools, or maybe both of the high schools. Dr. Karen, I was wondering if you could speak to grades and tell us what remedies have been taken.
Did you hear that, Doctor?
I did not.
So the issue with grades, I think that maybe the structure of the way that high school students were graded. Pardon?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Director Cognetti wants an update on the transcript issue that we had.
Right. First, an explanation of
Yes,
what the
I
problem
have,
is.
Ms. Cognetti and board members, I've asked Mr. Generalessa and Ms. Barrett to be there this evening, as they've been on the front lines troubleshooting this issue. Can you call them forward, or were you asking for this to be discussed on Monday night at the Education Committee meeting?
Mr. Generalisa has kindly stood up to address us. I think given the time-sensitive nature of students applying to colleges, we should talk about it tonight.
Right now we have, it's the discrepancy of the transcript, the final grades. Ms. Dixon, you'll be familiar with this. The final grades for each year, let's say if a student's a senior this year, for grades 9, 10, and 11, are calculated by doubling each quarter grade, adding the final divided by 9. That's the traditional way. That is how the unweighted on the transcript, it has always been unweighted, is devised on the transcript. The GPA is calculated, though, by, if a student's a senior, they've accumulated 12 marking periods up until this point. And it is calculated, and we just found this out from our e-school representative, Connie Mazza, that the GPA, student's GPA, is calculated with the 12 quarter marks rolling into each quarter and getting recalculated by each quarter, but it doesn't include the final. This is the way the e-school system is set up, and that is showing a little bit of a discrepancy.
Excuse me, Mr. Generalist, I didn't hear you. It doesn't include the final?
It does not include the final
exam. Not factored in? Is that what
And
the
not for the
difference is?
student's GPA, no. That's where we found a discrepancy of where students are trying to do their hand calculation of what their final grade on the transcript is, divide or multiply it times the quality points. If it's a full credit course, you multiply it times 1. If it's a partial course like a gym or a health, it's 0.2, 0.25 or 0.4 or safety 0.2. And then you divide it by the total accumulated credits. That is the way most people thought it would be done by hand, but it's not. It's calculated with just a 12 marking period grades without the final. And on the student transcript, the transcript does reflect an overall GPA and rank of a weighted and unweighted average. So that's where we're at right now. Right. Also, if a student, if a teacher's record in e-school will calculate it out to actually two decimal places. So if a teacher does have a student, let's say has a 91.51, that will kick to a 92 on the transcript. Or if a student has a grade of a 91.49, that's going to kick back down to a 91. So that could happen numerous times where students are unfortunately gaining up to, it could be gaining a credit up to anywhere of an area of 9,800 points, 0.51 to 0.49. It will stay that whole number. So again, if a student behind the scenes is calculating a teacher's grade book to the 100th spot of, let's say, a 91.51 to a 92.49, that's a difference in 9,800 points, a 92 will be on the transcript. So that is also factored in for the discrepancy of a student's GPA, where that's how it's actually calculated with the e-school system.
Mr. Generalist, correct me if I'm wrong, but I recall somewhere in a conversation with somebody, I don't know who it was, didn't we merge systems with e-school with another computer? Isn't there a merger of some sort with the program?
Am I right?
We merged Power School and E-School.
Okay. I do remember somebody telling me that. Could that have anything to do with it?
Yes, and we did formulate a letter to indicate what the discrepancies of the transcript for a student's GPA. We're going to print that. I sent that out to all the counselors to be submitted to all college applications and scholarship applications. But e-school and Power School were just merged, as far as I know, this school year combined. Right. So now we're talking about the end of 2017-18 school year.
Okay.
Which now affect going forward in Power School and e-school. But that's the major discrepancies behind the scenes with students' GPAs and how transcripts. Final grades are calculated is the traditional way, but students' GPA, we were just given this information about a week and a half ago. It does not include the final exam. It just includes.
What's the remedy outside of that letter you're going to send to the university? What's the remedy?
Well, the situation with the letter basically says is that there is discrepancies with the grading system, and we had a little bit of a situation with the curving before last year, which we did correct. So the weighting situation was not accurate, and the letter does state that the grading system is now accurate, and the student's grade, even though that may appear lower in their junior year, it's not in effect, actually is because of the curving system in their freshman and sophomore year. So basically, that's what the letter says.
So are the folks from East School confident that we could rectify this?
Right, yes. I mean, we are going to rectify it, but right now, it's just the way the transcripts are, the GPA is being calculated. That's the way it is, but it has to be. We have to decide on how we'd like to change the format to the final grade on a transcript multiplied by the quality points and divided by the total credits.
So do students know what they're supposed to put on their college application, or where? I mean,
There's going to be two. I'm sorry, Mr. Dennis. There's going to be two meetings. We'll hold one in each of the schools with Mr. Dennis and Ms. Barrett, the principals, to bring in the kids who can apply to one of the two colleges to go over how the GPA is being calculated. To also let them see the letter that Mr. Dennis is going to be sending out to explain that if it looks as if if I'm applying to an elite university and it looks as if my GPA dropped in 11th grade, there's a letter explaining the district itself enacted a new policy that it wasn't the student whose grades dropped that would be part of that. The other thing the East School did say is that if you want to move to a new system, they can run two systems concurrently to be able to start with a new freshman cohort and allow these students to transition through so that we can address the needs of what we think is best. Sorry.
sorry, I'm very concerned about this. There are applications, some of them are due October 1st. I know a ton of early admissions are due November 1st. I were in a situation, I would be absolutely terrified that I wasn't being well served by my school. So instead of just a meeting, I mean, whatever the remedy is, I think it needs to be all points bulletin, email, meeting, paper, Facebook, Twitter, anything to get this out, because I'm very concerned that students won't have it.
We met with E-School, and we have the woman from E-School in. How we're calculating our GPAs, there is nothing wrong with the mathematical calculations. So the system that's in place, long before I got to this district, of how GPAs were being calculated, is accurate and working. A big part of what the problem is the quality points behind the scenes. You can't mathematically figure that average out by hand. You know, it's not like looking at something and adding up your 5 grades and dividing. It's not possible because the quality points sit behind the scenes. So that's why Mr. Gentiles's letter will go with that. The GPAs themselves, and Connie went through this, the woman from E-School, are calculated correctly. If we want to change going from every marking period GPA being calculated to a different system, that's a decision the district has to make. Does that make sense?
It does. I think I'm unaware that our district that the districts would calculate GPA any differently than other public school districts or even private school districts.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't want to speak off the top of my head. But districts weight things differently. I came from a district that was a 4-point scale, not a variable scale. So it was a 0.5 weight, not a 0.8 weight. So districts weight things differently. A lot of times, and I know the Scranton High and the West Scranton High doesn't, they send out a school profile with the transcript so you know what the weight is for an AP, what the weight is for an honors course. Because, and I'll use the district I came from versus Scranton right now, it was a 0.5 whether it was AP or honors, where here we weight AP higher than honors. So schools choose to weight different all over the country. That's why that school profile that's sent with the transcript, in addition to Mr. Gentiles's letter from the Chief Compliance Officer, is so important to those kids who are applying elite Tier 1 early admission.
And also, our transcript does full numbers. We don't carry it out to the hundreds, where the teacher's grade book is carried out to the hundreds spot. And that's where students could gain or they could lose some of the partiality depending on if it's that 0.5 or above or 0.49 or below. It's going to kick it down to a whole number, 0.49 or below, or it's going to kick it up 0.5 or above to the next whole number. Because our transcripts do whole numbers. They don't carry it out to a decimal place. We never had transcripts carried out to a decimal place. We never had report cards carried out grades, student grades for courses to a decimal place. place. The only thing that was given to a decimal point was a student's GPA, a student's current average, and that actually is carried out to the fourth decimal point, the 10,000th spot. So again, behind the scenes, students may be getting some benefit if it's 0.5 or above, but they may be losing if it's 0.49 or below because of the rounding system.
So moving forward, right now we're addressing these issues, and you just thankfully explained a lot of the things that you're doing, because there's obviously an issue. But moving forward, I'm hearing that E-School said that they're confident they could fix this, but are we also discussing the possibility of maybe changing over to a different system?
There's been discussion of that, but like Ms. Keating said, with the new 9th grade cohort, we could change this system as far as the way the GPA is calculated, including the final. And if we do decide to print transcripts that do carry out to the 100th spot, which we can, I mean, it's not going to look as neat as possible, but it's going to be more efficient and more numerically right on.
Are there other districts that use E-School that are having the same issues as we are?
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I don't know.
Could you clarify one thing for me? So when you're referring to E-School or gradebook, are you referring to the CSIU model?
It's all based under E-School. Teacher's gradebook is from E-School, but it's carried out to a decimal spot.
No. My question is, you're referring to gradebook and E-School. Is this a component of CSIU?
No, we use E-School for student information management system. So that's the student information management system that oversees all of our academic endeavors. CSIU is used strictly in the business office for purchasing.
But it has a gradebook.
Yeah, so there are schools that use that component. We use E-School, which is now Power School. There was changes and things going on there. The company we brought out, but that's our student information management system that's been in place. Other schools use Skyward, they use Satellite, or they use Infinite Campus. There's CSIU, there's a ton of them that you could use, but E-School is our district student information management system.
Mrs. Jason?
Yes, Doctor.
There's two things here. We've been talking to other school districts in the area. Many of those are using Infinite Campus, which they say there's an ease to use it, and the calculations on grades are very easily done. The other piece of that is we haven't come to the board about changing our grading system yet, but if we did make a recommendation to the board, and I know that you know this, it would have to be beginning with the class, the 9th grade class of a certain year. So we couldn't just recommend it and then to change immediately for everyone, because we have to run 2 grading systems at the same time until those under this system graduate.
So we would have to start with a cohort, like a 9th grade.
Yes, that's exactly correct. But we're not ready to make the recommendation yet. But if we did, that's something that would have to be considered. And then 2 systems would have to be running at the same time.
Is PFM looking at this?
PFM has not looked at this. We can request that they take a look. We're working with Drew Miles on the educational side. We have not requested that they look at this yet. And we have talked about their new work, which they'll be presenting to you shortly, and that is not on their list.
Okay.
But if the board wishes that, we can certainly request that.
I think what we're looking for is to remedy this issue of these children to get these transcripts out. Is there a way to do that without?
But it's the calculations are not wrong. They're not wrong.
Is there a way to calculate it to get the transcript correct, rather than just sending out an attachment or an addendum?
The transcript is
Yeah, GPA is good.
But everything's correct, because we're not calculating based upon end of grade. So we're not saying the end you had a 92, that's what we're calculating on. Every marking period is counted. So if you're a senior, you have 4 marking periods for 4 years beforehand. All those marking periods are calculated in a logarithm or equation far beyond my comprehension to get to what you have as a cumulative GPA.
Yes.
So the system is, what's there is right, based off of what we've chosen as our cumulative GPA. You can't, unfortunately, you can't change and undo or go back and recalculate. That's what we were told by this. You have to choose a different means of calculation and implement it with a new cohort.
Okay.
See, I was hearing that the 11th grade year for this group of children is off. That was something I picked up out of there. I don't know if I'm hearing that wrong. The 11th grade year was off.
No, well, what's there, like we said, we heard the same rumors, so we had a person from East School there, and she sat and explained to us how the calculation works. I taught English, so I'm not going to tell you how the calculation works. But when she explained it, it all made sense, and maybe Connie's who because Connie's the person who explained it to us, Connie's the person who needs to be the person explaining it, because I'm giving you my layman's mathematical terms to put this into perspective.
Yes, we can. We can make that happen.
Yes, yes. I was just, I think we're all thinking the same thing. Can we bring her to the education committee meeting, Doctor?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Ms. Keating.
That being said, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.